Hey, so let's talk about something fascinating. There are these hidden scripts, these deep-seated beliefs we all have that are secretly running our lives. And it turns out the way you see the world isn't just your point of view. It's literally the program that dictates your reality. Okay, let me ask you something. Have you ever been, say, an hour into a movie that is absolutely terrible, but you stick it out just because you paid for the ticket? Or maybe you forced yourself to finish a meal you weren't even enjoying for the same reason? Yeah, I think we've all been there.
And it kind of makes sense, right? You don't want to feel like you've wasted your money. But what if I told you that little mental trap is really just the tip of the iceberg? It's a symptom of a much, much deeper force that's shaping your decisions every single day. This whole thing is really a tale of two completely different worlds, two fundamental ways of thinking. And here's the kicker. Whether you know it or not, you are living inside one of these worlds right now, this very second. So let's start by exploring that first world. In this world, everything about you, your intelligence, your talents, is basically carved in stone. It's permanent. This is the world of the fixed mindset.
So what does that really mean? Well, if you have a fixed mindset, you believe you were born with a certain amount of smarts, a specific level of artistic talent, and that's just the hand you were dealt. So your main goal in life becomes proving to yourself and everyone else that you have enough of the right stuff.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because that one single belief changes how you see everything. If you have a fixed mindset, effort seems like a bad thing. I mean, if you really have to try, it must mean you're not a natural, right? Challenges become things you need to avoid at all costs, because what if you fail? That would expose your limits. And failure is catastrophic. It's not just something that happens, it becomes who you are. The thought "I failed" quickly turns into "I am a failure." And this brings us right back to that boring movie. Someone with a fixed mindset is terrified of admitting they made a mistake, like buying that ticket, because it feels like a personal flaw. This is what fuels that sunk cost fallacy. I mean, a huge real-world example is the Concorde jet. For 27 years, investors just kept pouring money into it, long after they knew it was never going to make a profit. Why? Because stopping would mean admitting the whole thing was a failure from the start.
You see this kind of self-protection all the time. Think about the tennis legend John McEnroe. Unbelievable talent, right? But he was also famous for his excuses. If he lost a match, it was never just because the other guy played better. No, it was because he had a fever, or he ate too close to the match, or the court was too cold. It was always something external, anything to protect his identity as a born winner.
Okay, but what if there's another way to live? Let's step out of that world carved in stone and into a different one. A world where things are less like statues and more like seeds, just full of potential. Welcome to the growth mindset. The core belief here is totally different. It's the idea that your basic abilities are things you can actually build on through effort and dedication. Your potential isn't some fixed number. It's your capacity to learn and get better over time. And people who live in this world operate on a completely different frequency. They actually get excited by challenges. They see failure not as a final verdict, but as a wake-up call. It's just useful feedback. For them, effort isn't a sign of weakness, it's the path to getting better. And the funny thing is, they often achieve more in the long run, not because they're obsessed with winning, but because they actually fall in love with the process of improving.
And if you think this is just some nice fluffy theory, get this. When NASA recruits astronauts, they don't just look for people with perfect records. In fact, they've been known to turn away candidates who have only experienced success. They're actively looking for people who have failed, faced huge setbacks, and shown that they could learn from it and bounce back stronger. NASA wants people with a growth mindset.
This isn't even a new idea. Way back over 2,000 years ago, Aristotle basically nailed the essence of the growth mindset. He said, excellence isn't some magical act you perform once. It's a habit. It's something you build day in and day out through what you consistently do.
So here's the most important part of this whole thing. You are not stuck in one world or the other. This is a choice. You can actually learn to rewrite that script that's been run in your life. So, you gotta ask yourself a serious question. Do you like the story your life is telling right now? Are you happy with where the plot is heading? Because if the answer is no, or even maybe, then it's time to pick up the pen. It's time to stop being a spectator and start being the author. So, how do you actually do that? Well, you can break it down into 4 steps. First, just acknowledge the old script. Start noticing those repeating patterns, the stories you tell yourself over and over. Second, identify the triggers. What situations or feelings bring out that fixed mindset voice? Is he getting feedback? Starting something new? Third, and this is the active part, reframe. When you hear that voice say, I can't do this, you consciously replace it with something like, okay, what's one small thing I can learn to get started? And finally, reinforce. This is all about practice. The more you choose that growth response, the more it becomes your new automatic setting. So as we wrap this up, remember, this journey isn't about trying to erase your past. It's about taking the pen and intentionally creating a new ending to your story, starting today. Look, you can't change what's already happened. Those chapters are written and done. But the one thing you have total control over right now is that voice inside your head. You can shift your internal monologue away from being a harsh judge that's always telling you you're not good enough and turn it into a coach, a voice of growth that's always asking, all right, what did we learn and how can we get better? I want to leave you with this idea because it really says it all. You can't go back and get a new beginning. That's true. But anyone can start right now and create a brand new ending. The past is fixed, but your future? That's a blank page. So the real question is, what story are you going to choose to write?